Stoa is a digital campfire where we cohere in dialogue about what matters most at the knife's edge of what's happening now.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Stoa. I am Peter Lindbergh, the steward of the Stoa. And the Stoa is a place for us to cohere and dialogue about what matters most at the knife's edge of this very moment. And today we got Frank Yang at the Stoa. So yeah, how I came across Frank was really last week. I don't really watch much YouTube, so I was not really familiar with him. And in the Daniel Ingram session here at the Stoa, someone privately messaged me, who I think is in this room right now, saying if I knew Frank Yang. And I looked at him on YouTube. I didn't know what the fuck I was watching, but I think I found my soulmate when I was watching it because I absolutely loved what I was seeing. And so the Daemon told me to reach out, and here he is. So we're happy to have him. The protocols today for familiars at the Stoa. If you have a question, throw in the chat. I'll call on you, unmute yourself. It's going to be on YouTube. So if you don't want to be on YouTube, just indicate that in the chat. And then Frank and I will just warm each other up. So Frank, welcome to the Stoa. You can unmute yourself now. Yeah, you're muted. I can't hear you. Yeah, there you go.
You just popped up. Yeah, I just woke up. Good morning, everybody. I see this. There's a guy here that's into like this.
Cool, man. Oh yeah.
You know this?
Yeah. The original Brah.
Oh, the OG Brah.
Yeah. So how's it going, man?
It's perfect. Wonderful.
Yeah. I'm curious, what's most alive for you right now?
What's most alive for me? What's the most alive for what's my life right now?
Whatever one you want to go with, but the original one, what's most alive, like at this moment for you?
Right now, right here, this screen right here, and the other stuff too. But I'm focusing on the screen right now.
Beautiful.
And I'm Simon, looking forward to the weekend because I might go see Wonder Woman. That's it. And your beer.
Beautiful. That's what I was secretly hoping you would say.
Or when you say you find your soulmate, I was like, that's what my girlfriend said when she saw my videos.
So I only have one kind of question prepared. So yeah, like this is the question. So you tracked your journey on your YouTube channel from to become fully shredded via YouTube, or what I would call the spectacle, and you also tracked your journey to Nirvana via YouTube and the spectacle. So this is a two-part question. How did your journey towards becoming fully shredded inform your journey to becoming fully enlightened? And the other question is the recording process. And like, you're recording the journey, posting on YouTube in the spectacle. And I imagine this like enhanced the journey. And I say this in a positive sense, that like a healthy narcissism might've been leveraged for motivation to keep going. And then I imagine your audience was like a form of accountability as well.
Yes.
So that's the first thing I put towards you.
Well, I started recording my journey even before there was an audience, before there was YouTube. I started, just filming my life since as long as I can remember. I was like playing with like video cameras since I was like 14 years old. And then eventually I went to music school, and then eventually I went to film school. That was all before YouTube. So I was really filming like things, not just myself, but other people, interesting things. It's just part of my life. It's just kind of like my fourth eye almost, So once YouTube came out, and that's when I started uploading videos online, I was like, here's an internet thing where I could just, archive my videos without having to worry about like, backing them up on drives. But before the internet, I already had like, hundreds of, VHS tapes of, just pretty much what I'm doing right now, except that I was just recording whatever. But then after I got older, I started having more focus on what I want to record and what I want to, upload, and what I want to accomplish with those videos. So the first thing that I was recording myself doing was fitness. The first like goal-oriented task I was doing was fitness. So I started documenting my fitness journey from being a skinny con to being shredded and bulking up and cycling around back and forth and having different goals, jumping high, jumping on boxes. And then I got into philosophy in college. I was also recording myself playing music because I've been playing the violin since I was 5 years old. So that was part of my life, since I was 5 years old. So I was recording myself doing fitness, playing violin, and then eventually I got into philosophy and art and filmmaking. And I started recording myself sort of, at first it was just sort of like crystalline my insights that I learned from philosophy through, recording myself because, when you speak about what you've learned, even though I still didn't have a big audience back then, that really helped me to learn the material myself. And you could say the same thing about art. I was learning how to do filmmaking, film editing, and then I was like, if I could upload this on the internet, maybe people can see it, I can get some feedbacks, and that sort of motivates me to keep going and look at my work from other people's perspective as well. And there's a structure for me to put out my work. And then after that, after philosophy, I started getting into meditation. So after I started getting meditation, I was like, well, that's the next logical step. I'm going to talk about my meditation experiments and experiences, no different from my fitness journeys and my philosophy journeys and my art and music journeys. So I look at them all as just different, nodes in this hologram that really has no center, which is like my experience right now. So it's kind of ironic. So you can say that I'm always just trying to model reality or model my mind, and then sort of transporting it to another model that models back on itself. And at the end, there's really no difference for me whether or not I'm doing this for that or that for this. They're all the same thing to me right now.
Mm-hmm. Like
all the same, yeah.
To double click on the spectacle thing, like there's a term that I got from Guy Debord, and he said that being turns into having turns into appearing. And in this sort of like age that we're in, everyone's just lost in the appearing, they're lost in their image. And it seems like you went full circle. It's like being to having to appearing, back to being again. So I'm curious, like how that, again, the having the camera on you, it being constantly broadcast from such a young age, how did that inform your journey?
I think it motivates me more than it harms me overall. I think, like you said, if I put my stuff out there, like I can't back it up. I can just be like, I had this insight. I made this kind of gains on the physique. Now I'm gonna go eat junk food for 2 weeks because I gotta update my progress because a lot of people are watching and looking up to me, and I'm helping some people out by monitoring my own progress. But since the beginning, it really wasn't my goal to be like, okay, I'm doing this for other people or even for myself. It's always just like this impulse, that's, I would say, was pretty pure since the beginning. It's still pretty pure now. It's just that I just had this impulse of wanting to share and wanted to sort of manifest what I'm doing into a more concrete form, so I can look back on it and see how that would use this as a tool to further upgrade my progress. So you can always you can say that the being and appearance and the materiality of the stuff that I'm doing and the ideas behind it are all kind of like the same, like they're all kind of one. Like I sort of there's definitely a time where there was some line drawn between the different aspects of being, but then as I'm sitting here right now, that most of the lines are dissolved. It's like doing it for other people, or doing it for myself, or doing it for nothing, or doing it for everything. It's all the same to me right now. I'm just doing it. Just I get up in the morning and I breathe. I don't really think about why I breathe or who I'm breathing for. Breathing is just happening. Yeah, that's becoming more and more apparent as I get deeper into meditation practices, insight practices, and the longer that I'm doing this.
And what is your thoughts, your experience when I say the word beauty?
Beauty, I think of symmetrical, means just finding a balance in your perceptions or your feelings or your thoughts. Yeah, I actually was just editing a video yesterday about this idea of balance and symmetry. Because I was contacted by like a couple of neuroscientists and like mathematician or physicists. They were interested in scanning my brain with an EEG machine, and I think it's the Qualia study, Institute study or something like that. And what they want to find out is whether the state that I've been describing the meditative states, the jhanic states, states of samadhis, or just even by default state, is that of symmetry and balance. And they were also doing studies on people who are taking psychedelics and people who are, just living very blissful lives, whether or not their brains are symmetrical. Have you seen those illustration of like a sphere or a circle where one point like connects to all the other points on the sphere, and then all the other points connect to each other and stuff like that, and then all the points connect to itself? So that's kind of like the illustration of what symmetry looks like, whether you're modeling the brain or reality or a piece of art, piece of music, body, physique. For me, beauty is the perception of symmetry or the cognition of symmetry. The bicep isn't aesthetic by itself if it isn't codependent arising with the proportion in shapes and sizes of all the other groups, all the other muscle groups in the body, and vice versa, right? And I would say like my perception of beauty when I look at a sculpture, piece of sculpture, or when I look at a body, piece of painting that I find aesthetic, it's a perception of symmetry. And then if you wanted to me to describe my day-to-day, moment-to-moment experience, it's pretty symmetrical, as in like there's no center to experience. In hearing, it's just the hearing, there's no hear. In seeing, there's just the seeing, there's no seer. In thinking, there's just thinking, no thinker. It's not like process or a filter through like a subject in the center. And it's very immediate in the sense that all the sensations, all 360 degrees, it syncs up to itself without any delay, 24/7. And all the sensations, whether that's body, that's sight, sound, thoughts, emotions, they're all in equal footing to each other's symmetry. And that's for me an aesthetic experience of beauty.
Awesome. There was a slight.
I would say like a suffering mind, or like I would say like suffering mind is a mind that isn't symmetrical. If your mind is unsymmetrical, that means it's defiled somewhere. It's kind of asymmetrical in a sense. So for me, aesthetics runs in all different kinds of domain, not just the perceptual domain, not just the sort of the visual aesthetics domain, but even the emotional and the way you think.
Yeah, I love that. Suffering is not a symmetrical mind. Yeah, that's brilliant. Cool. So this is going. There's a slight delay in our looks like our audio too. So just let that sink for a moment. This is going to be like a tag team interview. Evan, the Bridge McMullen is going to jump in now because a lot of this Nirvana stuff is above my pay grade. So I'm going to take in Evan before we pivot to the Q&A in the chat.
Cool, man.
Hi, Frank. Great to talk to you.
Hey, Evan.
Not all of your videos, but your journey with some interest on Dharma Overground and other spots. So cool to get to talk to you. So I'm curious. I think the first place I want to start is your sense of where you go from here. And to give you a little bit of background for why I'm asking that question, it seems to me, at least, from listening to your videos and the way that you're expressing yourself, that your path here has been one that we could associate with, say, the Theravada four-path model, right, which ends in arhatship, essentially. And as you probably know, there's great debate within different Buddhisms about whether or not this truly is the end, right, of attainments and accomplishments and the path. So I'm curious about your thoughts as to where someone in your position goes from here and how this abiding experience might be said to condition or influence where you're going in your life that you might not have been going before you had these realizations.
I'm still practicing a couple of hours a day, but the difference is that I stopped searching. Like my purpose now for practice is exploring integration. There was a point, that's flow here today, nothing has changed. But after the May 25th shifts, which I been talking about, there were some minor shifts, but I wouldn't call them quantum. There were shifts that are not different in quality, but in quantity. Yeah. So I'm still practicing, but my mindset about spirituality and meditation had completely shifted. Now it's just I'm just doing it for fun, and I'm starting to see myself branching out into other domains of interest, even exploring the things that I used to be interested in. There was a point in my journey where I kind of lost interest in a lot of stuff that I was interested in, like violin, music, art, and philosophy, and films, music, stuff like that. I was just focusing on like this inside path solely for a while. But now I can see myself, getting out there, meeting new people and exploring some of the things that I was interested in, but from a whole new different perspective. I would say the major difference, you know how they say that after the path, you kind of go back to doing your own thing again. You just kind of go back to being a normal person. You know, before awakening, you see a mountain, and then during awakening, you don't see a mountain anymore. And after awakening, you see a mountain again if you want to, or if you don't want to, you cannot see the mountain too, you know? So I would say the best way to describe it is before I was watching a flat TV screen from over here. And then during awakening, it's almost like I'm putting on a goggle, like a 3D goggle, like a virtual reality goggle. And then after awakening, even the goggle is gone. But then now it's a fully immersed environment where there's no separation at all between, you know, the watching and the watcher and the watched. And you could say in a lot of sense, it's been like 7 months now. Things are being really, really good, totally different, yet the same. Where in mid path, it was just like, okay, there's more to do. And I'm experiencing all those energetic shifts. And this is crazy. This is like, how can my mind do this? This is crazy. This is my fucking, like, you know, this is like a psychedelic trip without any drugs. But now I don't even think about that anymore. I don't even think about the path or attainments and all that stuff anymore. But I'm still practicing just the same.
Cool. A very, very good description. Thank you for that. So I'm curious, on a slightly different track, though I think it's still related to the line we were just exploring, how you would describe your relationship with a sense of ethics or right action or right livelihood. You know, there's a lot of stuff in the old Theravada text that describes certain shifts that should or must happen for a practitioner to be considered to have reached fourth path, or awakening, in this sense. And I'm curious, you know, talking to a lot of different practitioners from different lineages, say we had Daniel Ingram on the Stoa recently, you know, some of this seems to be a bit perhaps mythologized and being passed down through the ages, and some of it seems to be quite real and essential. So I'm curious if you could describe for us any shifts that have happened in the way that you relate to ethics or to human relations in general, and how your awakening experiences have informed those shifts.
To be honest, I haven't thought about this too much. I understand the fact that there are, technically speaking, two axes of development. There's the wisdom axis, which I claim to have gone for the, you know, all the way. But the ethical axis, to be honest, I haven't thought about it too much and I haven't practiced on it too much. But just by claiming the attainments I have on the wisdom axis is drastically improved, not just my own life. My suffering has been reduced by 99%. And because my own suffering has been reduced, the relationship I have with other people have also been greatly enhanced. There were things that I would used to do that would quote unquote hurt other people that I would not do anymore. Not because I was thinking about, oh, I have to practice ethic because, you know, I'm doing this spirituality work. It just kind of happened automatically. I can say that for sure. I can still, if I go to another retreat, that would be a good idea for me to do a lot more meta, to contemplate on compassion a little bit more, ethics, you know, to consciously be even better to other people, to consciously be even more compassionate. Of course, there's always room for that. I don't think there's an endpoint for that, but it's not something that I currently think about as a goal. But to answer your question, like in a very general sense of the way, I think my ethical and morality axis have also been improved because as a side effect of, you know, gaining insights into the wisdom axis.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for that answer. I really appreciate that, because in so many practitioners who, with some level of attainment, there is a sort of conflation of those two axes, and they're held to be very highly ethically developed because of their developments along the wisdom and concentration axes. So it's nice to hear you be very explicit that you're not claiming that as this the same thing, and you know, it's an infinite path, right? The path of ethics and morality. And so I really do appreciate and resonate with that answer a lot. As another sort of follow-up along these lines, I'm curious to know your intuition for how much of the characteristics or result of your awakening are specifically the result of the particular path you took, which I believe was a Mahasi style noting type practice, as opposed to, say, other practices from other Buddhist lineages, or in general, other spiritual practices. You know, you have some people who say, sort of in the perennialist camp or universalist camp, who say that all spiritual enlightenment is the same thing. And then you have other people who might believe that there's a multiplicity of different endpoints to different paths. And I'm curious to get your take on that, if you have one.
I think they're both true. I think they're codependent arising. I think See, after the retreat, I actually went through a shift where so I went to another retreat about 2 months ago, and my awakening was about 5 months before the retreat. So what I call the shift on May 25th, I call it the Big Bang, and on the tree I call it the Big Crunch. So basically, on the May 24th retreat, May 25th shift, it just feels like infinite space, absolute infinity. Um, but then after the retreat, I sort of shrunk into absolute nothingness. But they're two sides of the same coin. And then I'm at this point right now where they could be experienced both simultaneously, and they're codependent arising. So I think the May 25th shift would be considered as sort of like a Brahmic state in the Hindu tradition, like a non-dual state. And the retreat shift, I would say, is kind of like the emptiness insight for Buddhism. And I think they're codependent arising. I think one couldn't exist without another. And I think without the Big Bang, there can be a big crunch, right? So I'm at the point where I can experience them simultaneously, or I can even experience, just going back to being a monkey with 3 balls simultaneously. So I think that they're both kind of true. I think it's the same realization with different flavors. It's one being of non-being that's manifesting itself through different meat suits and different traditions. And within those different meat suits and different traditions, different individuals are going to be experiencing this truth a little differently. But it's the same non-being, so to speak. That's my take on it. And I think at the end, it's about the reflexivity to sort of switch it back and forth. Take the lens of perception and switch it back and forth, even though there is no lens of perception. But on different scenarios, different contexts of life, it's better to be a human being, even though you realize that the human being is a construction, but that doesn't mean that you can't reconstruct it, right? So that's one of the things about emptiness that's so important, because once you unfabricate everything, once you realize everything is a fabrication, then you can have the freedom to refabricate your experiences or your sense of being into anything you want. You can experience different states simultaneously, or you can experience just one state at this particular point in time and space, or all of them. Depends on the conditions of your life and who you're interacting with, and whatever it is that you're doing right now.
I love the way you language that answer. Thank you very much. So I could keep asking you questions for hours, but at this point, I'm going to pass it back over to Peter for the remainder of the session. So thank you again.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. So we're going to pivot to Q&A. We've got some good Q&As. Keep throwing your questions in the chat, and we'll take in Fool Jeff first.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Jeff.
Since the awakening, do you have like any reflections on dark nights, on like what you think they are in retrospect, and like do you work through them or just survive them? Or because I feel like when I'm going through them, I'm like pulled towards weed again, of drug use more, to like just kind of get through it. So yeah, I was just wondering maybe some of your thoughts on dark nights.
When I was going through the path, there were a lot of dark nights that were really unbearable. And then I would just like drink beer for like a whole week. And then I would like not meditate. And then that got me through it. Yeah. When dark night comes, man, like, I don't know about your personal experience, but mine were so bad that I didn't even want to meditate anymore. I didn't even care about living. I was just in my bed for the whole week and just kind of letting it take over and surrendering. To be honest though, like thinking back on it, that it was so bad that I didn't even have the self-consciousness to remember exactly what happened in the dark night. But there were some moments in the dark night where it was super blissful, was super beautiful, like the visions and the visuals, and the way that your whole mind body was being dissolved. There were some really beautiful, blissful moments that's given rise through the dark night, so like the blissful states can only arise to the dark and the unblissful state. So there's like little nuggets of really beautiful states during the dark night that sort of kept me going. It was just like, holy shit, I'm going through dark night, but I'm experiencing something that I've never experienced before. So I paid attention to that, from time to time. But overall, the dark night was so bad that I just kind of drank beer for the whole week. And then, but there's always the light at the end of the tunnel for sure, because like they never lasted for more than like 2 weeks, really, the big ones. But then there were minor dark nights that I wouldn't even consider dark nights. So I guess maybe you could keep smoking weed.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah,
No,
no, that feels
I'm not
better. It feels
I'm not encouraging you to smoke. Different people deal with it differently. Yeah, yeah.
Do you have like any thoughts then about what they are? What you
I
think of
think
it?
they're to sum up what the Dark Knight is. I think Dark Knight is very, I think it's very closely related to its opposite, which is the rising and passing away phase, which is a spiritual high. So Dark Knight, if you want to summarize it, is spiritual low, and the rising and passing away, which follows by the Dark Knight or precedes the Dark Knight, is a spiritual high. You contract and expand. You go through the map. You can have the negative, you can have the positive, just like anything else. And spiritual experiences and insights and paths are no different. So Dark Knight, both the Dark Knight and the energetic explosion, which you feel very blissful, even your consciousness explode to the whole universe, all your chakras open up. People will consider that, holy shit, that's amazing. I want that, right? Because that's pretty blissful. But that can't exist by itself. It's the same coin. It's the two sides. The Dark Knight and the blissful events are two sides of the same coin. So what I think those events are, those spiritual experiences are, I don't think they're end of themselves. They're not the final goal of the insight path, because they unless you lock them into realizations, they're just experiences and byproducts of dissolving the separate self and of conditioning. That's it. Well, that's my personal experience. So I look at my analogy is like, at the end of the Dark Night, at least from my personal experience, all my chakras open up, and that kind of cycle happened more than once. But I remember this one time was like so crazy. Like I could feel the energy building up from the bottom of my spine, just the classic Kundalini awakening, and it just explodes through my third eye. The energy just boom, right? And then I was imagining myself as this, like, instead of having a third eye, all seeing third eye, my third eye was like an anus. So basically, I was ejaculating all the defilements and all the conditionings I've accumulated throughout my life, and ejaculating out through my third eye. And then after that, I just feel way lighter. My perceptions changed. Each time I have a Dark Night and a rising and passing away couple, I walk out of the phase feeling just less separated and lighter. So I would say the Dark Night, both the Dark Night and the spiritual highs, are just a byproduct of the biological organisms respond to deconditioning the separate self. That's
Awesome.
my take.
Thanks, Steve.
I have to take in Andy, because I think Andy, you were the one that actually private messaged me during the Daniel Ingram session about Frank. So you're up.
Oh yeah, true. Okay, thanks, Peter. Yeah, Frank. Hey, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I've been following you for a while, so it was really pleasant. Like, I love seeing your path and seeing it come full circle, and I'm just very happy for you. So it's really nice to witness.
Thank you.
So one thing I noticed, like, you really had a really great intense solo practice, and I think you also like pull on a lot of great sources. But I was wondering if you work directly with a teacher.
Oh, never. I never. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think the only teacher that I've had were teachers from the Goenka retreat.
Right.
Interview, but that's not too official. That's not like really like a one-on-one stuff. And then I also had teachers from TM, because I started with TM, but that's also just for a class. So I never really had like a one-on-one teacher. No, I think that's a disadvantage and an advantage at the same time. But it worked out for me personally. But I think for some people, it would be a good idea for them to have a teacher. But for some people, it's the other way around. So I can't say for sure.
Sure, cool. And like, okay, so second question is like, do you feel like when you get so many DMs on Instagram, I'm always like, my mind is always blown, because it's just like you just produce walls of text for people. So it seems like you're really dedicated to like sharing or even like teaching people per se. So I was wondering, like, how do you relate to that? I mean, I feel like you were probably already doing this a lot with bodybuilding and just like always giving out like advice. So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Do you feel like a teacher at times? Or do you feel like responsible for what you're putting out there, or it's just like relating to bros?
Both. I think I don't think of myself as a teacher. I don't, I'm not planning to teach anything like official. I just like sharing. So basically what you see on the DM is the same as what I'm doing right now and through the videos. If someone asks me a question, if I say it, I think it's interesting, I think it'll help people and it help myself understand this more, then I answer. I don't really think about it that much. It's just kind of like an impulse. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so like, so since you're, especially since
I just want to blow people's minds. That's the thing.
Right.
That's the beginning. I just want to blow people's minds. But even that isn't really the most primal intention. There is none really. It's just an impulse, really. So I don't know. It's fun though. I actually like replying stuff about this more than bodybuilding. I think I'm more passionate about like the mind and consciousness more than bodybuilding. So I don't think I gave out a lot of insights like that through my fitness journey.
Cool.
This is my
Cool.
passion, I think.
Do you feel like since you've made these claims, especially the most recent claims this year, do you feel like you've gotten a lot of shit from people in the meditation community? And like, do you respond to that, or do you like even bother, or do you just, yeah?
That's an interesting question. I haven't gotten a lot of that. I'm surprised myself. I thought I would get a lot of shit, but I didn't. Most people are pretty supportive and they're pretty fascinated. And I was surprised by that too. When I made that claim, I didn't really think about the consequences. It was just like, if I squat 500 pounds, I'm gonna put a video up saying I squat 500 pounds because that's the way it is, right? And for the meditation world, it's a little complicated. So like that's the water I haven't really sunk into yet, but maybe I will. So I'll deal with it when that time comes. But so far, no, so far it's been nothing but positive experiences. I've met a lot of new people like yourself. I engaged in even more conversations because of those videos. That's, you know, I've learned more about how to communicate this Dharma thingy more, and I've learned more about it from a technical standpoint and from a theoretical standpoint, even from an experiential standpoint, just by doing it. So far it's been nothing but positive experiences that came out of, you know, those kind of videos and the payments I kind of, you know, share with those videos. So
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay, well, those are all my questions. But like, yeah, again, thank you so much.
thank you, Peter. Is it Peter? No, it's Andy.
Okay,
Sorry.
no worries.
Awesome. Pranab, you're up next.
Yeah, I got a couple. Do you have one you want me to do?
Hey, Pranab. Me, I don't really have one. I don't have
That's
it.
good.
I don't know what's on your
Alright.
mind.
I'll tackle on the last one I just dropped in the chat. So kind of adding on to what Andy was talking about, how do you go about saying no to people? Or when you get too many requests or there are things you can't handle, how do you kind of like handle that? And how, as you kind of been doing more meditation and, you know, different states of awakening, has that changed? Just because I have a few friends who have somewhat large audiences, and I think, you know, in the age of social media and stuff, like a lot of people can, and it can be kind of overwhelming. So just kind of want to get your take on that, and you know, how you just say no, and how do you just handle a bunch of DMs?
To be honest, I don't think I'm bombarded by them. It's like I reply them whenever I want to. If I don't, I just put my phone down. It's pretty simple. And like if I feel overwhelmed, then I just intuitively I just put my phone down and just do something else. And I you know, honestly, if the meditation world was as big as like the fitness world, I would be a lot more bombarded. If like I came out and said I attained like Arnold's physique or some shit like that, you know. But since the meditation world, the Dharma world, especially this kind of like pragmatic Dharma work, isn't really that big yet. So it's nothing. It's really not that much different. I've actually gotten less like requests than before when I was into fitness. Like when I was into fitness, I've gotten a lot more criticism, a lot more supports, and a lot more, you know, just bombarded with a lot more messages and stuff before, actually, when I was doing fitness and I was doing like pranks and stuff like that. But now I'm kind of in a good place. I think I'm sharing stuff that I'm passionate about. I don't really care if I get requests or not. I'm just doing my thing, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah.
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah. But I've never really felt like bombarded. Like once in a while, I feel like, oh, there's like solidity here and there because of those messages. But then I just deal with it. It just liberates themselves whenever they want to and whenever they need to. It hasn't been bothering me at all. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Also, can you talk more about relationships and spirituality? I know you've kind of talked about like sex, relationships, and stuff on your channel, but I guess in regards to like how you view relationships and like the person you're with, sometimes I've heard that, you know, sometimes I had the thought where, you know, the more Zen or awakened I get, I can probably like be with anyone and it's fine. But then I realized like practically, like it's probably not true. But yeah, just want to get your take on all that.
I used to be a sex addict. I couldn't live a day without having sex. I have to have sex with like a different girl every 2 weeks to be able to live. Oh, that's my identity started to strip away from me. But now that's been reduced by, I say, 99% in terms of sex. In terms of relationships, same thing. Like I have a girlfriend right now, but it's long distance. We haven't seen each other for almost a year. And I don't really miss her, but I talk to her on the phone every night. If I see her, I'll be really happy. If I don't see her, that's fine too. So, and because my girlfriend is also in the kind of the same state as me. We kind of went through the same progress together. So it's pretty easy to relate to her. So if you're gonna ask me about relationships post awakening with other girls, I haven't experienced that yet, so I can't tell you. But from what I can tell is that my desire and my need for relationship and sex has been reduced by about 99% since the awakening. So that's a pretty dramatic shift. But that doesn't mean I can't enjoy sex or I can't enjoy the company of a beautiful woman, but they're not a necessity for, my sense of non-identity right now. So
Totally.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. And I guess one final thing on that, do you feel like when there's like a shift in consciousness, like if you, I don't want to like compare too much, right? But if let's say you're like, your feelings around suffering and just life is one way, but someone else is like totally different. Was that difficult for you at any time, or I don't know, or is that kind of just go inside and just lose its problem nature or something?
You mean, I'm not understanding your question. You mean like if I suffer it, do other people suffer? Is that a problem?
Or more,
after awakening, or
more like if you're at a state where you like meditate a bunch and do a lot of spiritual work and someone else doesn't, I guess if you had that experience, how'd you handle that? And yeah.
Oh, so I have all those experiences and other people around me don't have it. How do I handle that?
Yeah, and I guess more broadly, like both relationships as well as friendships.
That's a really good question, because that used to bother me quite a lot mid-path. I used to have all those crazy experiences. And I was like, why aren't people experiencing this? Why aren't, like, I'll tell my friend, why aren't you sitting down meditating with me? I'll get kind of pissed off that people are not serious on the path, even though a lot of my friends or a lot of people that are close to me say like they are. But I'm not the one to judge, but like I'm sitting down like 3 hours a day, but they're still meditating. They're serious about it in their own way. I can't judge them. But at that time, I was like, why aren't you sitting down 3 hours a week like me and experiencing all this wonderful stuff? And you can access them yourself, but now it doesn't bother me at all. Like each person is in their own state and it's perfect as it is. It used to also bother me different kinds of realization that other people have or claims. That used to bother me a little bit too. But now it doesn't bother me. If you claim a realization, that's your realization right there. Just like how Sam Harris Sam Harris?
Yeah.
He likes to argue with people about free will. He spends hours and hours debating people about free will. Another person wouldn't know what he's talking about because he's not experiencing what he's talking about. But the two are codependent arising. They manifest each other. They're two sides of the exact same point. Free will and determinism are two sides of the same coin. If Sam Harris is experiencing no free will and he's convincing people that there is no free will, but the other person is experiencing free will, then there's free will right there for him. It's so simple, right? Yeah. And then the two are codependent arising and perfect
cool.
For their own states.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Ayush, you're up next.
Yeah, hey Frank. So huge fan of your videos. It's really been inspirational to me on my own path.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ayush,
So
can you pronounce your name? Ayush?
Yeah, Ayush. Yeah.
Ayush. Cool.
Yeah. So my question was more about your relationship to like the traditional aspects of Buddhist teaching, like around like karma, rebirth, realms of existence. Because I know Daniel Brown was on the Stoa a couple months ago. He like went super in depth about like the different Bardo realms, like what happens after death, more like metaphysical aspects of the path. So I was wondering like what your relationship is to, are those more just like stories to help you move along, or is there like some like sense of reality to those?
I'm not too sure. I've experienced like other realms and have out-of-body experiences, astral projections, lucid dreamings, and experienced entities. But I'm at a point where I kind of, I don't really categorize them as being real or not. Like their ontological statement isn't really important to me now. Whether they're not their stories or reality, that line between like reality and dream, what's story and what's not story, has been kind of dissolved for me. So I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah, I think after my final ship, quote unquote final ship, all the entity and all the energetic stuff were kind of gone.
Right.
I think they were more pronounced mid-path when I was going through a lot of energetic and jhana stuff. So I could have a theory that says that all that stuff is, one, just stories to help you along. Two, they're just a byproduct of what I said before, the deconditioning process of your mind, body, organism. So if you see an entity, like I saw like midgets trying to suck my dick like a few times. And then you could say that's a projection of my own mind into reality because I was deconditioning that part of my, mind, body, organism. But I don't really know. Maybe the difference between what's in the mind, what's outside of the mind, what's reality, what's fantasy, that line has been sort of dissolved. So is it real or not real? For me, everything is neither this or not. So they're neither real nor not real, and both.
Right.
And they're definitely interesting though. Even despite the fact that I don't really care if they're real or not, I would still be pretty interested in practicing stuff like fire casinas and like, you know, meditations that would bring you to other realms. Definitely interesting. But I think for me, they're more like just byproducts and sort of the content on the context.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go with Anjan. You just had a question in the chat.
Hey, Frank.
Oh, hey.
Quick question, man. After Enlightenment, do you still like procrastinate and shit? Tell white lies, like any of those type of things? Continue, and have you been surprised?
I don't know. I think in some ways I've been even more productive after awakening. In some sense, I've been a little bit more lazy, but I haven't thought about it. Yeah. Don't know.
I'm curious about that, like meaning or motivation. Like, how has that changed? You say you're maybe a little more lazy.
Yeah, I'm like, just to give you a really concrete example, I used to really care about my physique. So I wake up the first thing in the morning, I'll weigh myself and I count everything I eat and, you know, plug in my fitness pal. And I'll take fitness really seriously. Every day I'll take selfies to see if I make gains. I completely stopped doing that, but I'm still going to the gym just as much. Right. So same with like the video editing stuff and sort of even meditation. It's like, I don't think I'm motivated to do them anymore, honestly, but then I'm still doing it. One way I look at it is like, they're sort of like old programs that's running in the background. And since they're not really bad programs, they're programs that are, you know, quote unquote, more or less positive to like, you know, this Me Too and other people. I just let them run and I just kind of, you know, let them do their thing. And then, yeah. And because I'm not as motivated as before, there are times when I just feel like I don't feel like doing them. So I just lay down and do nothing. And I don't look at it as procrastination per se. I just look at it as, I'm chilling right now. And I know I'll get back on my feet and do things when the impulse arise. So when you say procrastination, that gotta throw me off guard because I haven't labeled them as procrastinations or motivations or not. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know if that answers your questions. I would say overall, like if you're meant to do what you're doing, like if you're meant to be a musician, before awakening, you're doing music. After awakening, you're gonna still be doing music, but you're gonna be doing a different kind of music. You're gonna, you know, be a better musician in some ways, maybe not in other ways, right? Just how this particular Me Too had been programmed, and you know, due to conditions, after awakening, it's likely that you're gonna be continuing doing the same thing, but just in a way less detached way, and you sort of just enjoying the process way more. Like I enjoy playing the violin and you know, lifting weights way more now actually than before when I had a goal. So it's not like a motivation factor, or it's not like I'm doing it, I'm procrastinating. It's just what it is. And if I stop doing it tomorrow, I'll be fine with it. But tomorrow hasn't come yet, so I don't really know.
Very cool. Katie, you're up next. Oh. We can't hear you. Your audio's not on.
Mine or hers?
Now.
Yeah, you're good now.
All right, cool. Hey, Frank, nice to meet you.
Hey.
You mentioned earlier that you're still meditating, and I'm curious, what do you do when you're meditating and how has it changed?
Right now, I don't have a goal, so I just sit down and I still do my usual round of body scanning because that's like the majority of my practice, even pre-awakening, is body scanning, Goenka style. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. So I do that still, like a couple of rounds. Before my whole session will be body scanning. And then I'll go very systematically into, okay, the next sensation, the next sense door, which is sight. Then I'll deconstruct the sight. I'll try to sync my mind to the sight. And then I'll be like, okay, sounds. I'll try to sync my mind to sounds. And then thoughts. And then I do it in a very systematic way. But now it just, it's kind of more freestyle, I guess. So, you know, once in a while, my mind could run through this program where it's kind of like before, where, you know, I like to get familiarized with the program that I was used to running. But it's way easier. There's no effort. But most of the time, I just scan my body up and down for a little bit and just use that to relax. And then mostly just do nothing meditation, just kind of like the Dzogchen style of like, you know, just resting in the natural state mostly. And I still do a little bit of contemplations here and there, not just about the path, but about, you know, different kind of things, whatever comes up. And I would say the major difference is like before I was meditated trying to meditate to something, try to gain something, but now it's just the meditation is doing itself. I like to say the universe is meditating to itself right now instead of just a meditator here, a separate meditator meditating for a goal, and it's being way more enjoyable. And after the shift, all the states that I was struggling to access, like it took me like 5 years to get to like to run through all the jhanas, practicing like 2 or 3 hours a day. But now I can just sit down and up in the formless realms. And the difference is like I don't really care about them anymore. I'm not attached to them anymore. They're just like, you know, the phenomena are rising and passing right now. There's no different than drinking hot chocolate. Yeah. And then I say the most important thing is having that default state locked in, where all the jhanic states, all the meditation experiences, all the insights can run through them, and that context, that emptiness doesn't change. And I think that's the realization right there. Not
So-
really the meditation experiences, but I still meditate.
Follow-up question to that. A lot of times when people, at least when they first start doing do nothing meditation, one of the things that can come up is very strong emotions. Like people will go into fear or anger. And often that's a mode where people will kind of lose the sense of emptiness in their practice. And so I'm wondering, do you have experiences like that on the cushion? Like if you have an experience of a strong emotion, what is that like for you
Right now or before?
now? And how is it
Now,
different?
okay.
Yeah.
No, there's still sort of old programs that come out, but they don't bother me. They're just like a little more solidified sensations, and I just look at them as not self, and they're rising and they pass away simultaneously like that. But I let them come and let them go. But most of the time, like they're just cool, more sensations. Yeah. Solidity and emptiness really are the same thing for me right now. Yeah, and the way I look at it is they're dependent co-arising. Like you can't have one side without the other. You can't have contraction without expansion. Nothing stays static. Yeah, even though the background, the quote unquote background, is the same, you still have a monkey suit here that it's going to take years for this whole monkey suit to be completely cleansed, and it's still going on. But I just don't look at it as a process anymore. When it comes, it comes. When it goes, it goes. Yeah, but the difference, I think, the major difference is I'm not in them anymore. Now they're just kind of like arising and passing away, kind of like the cars. Like kind of like if I meditated sound, and then now there's no traffic right now, so all the cars are sort of driving by really smoothly. And then once in a while, there's gonna be traffic. There's gonna be cars are gonna be honking, and there's gonna be a little more solidified fields here or there in the field of experience due to conditioning of that has really nothing to do with me happening and passing away. And that's how I look at this monkey suit's conditionings when it arises. So it's really the same thing. They're just part of the whole seamless whole.
Awesome.
That's why practice has been so fun for me right now, because not only is there no stress, no goal, and if there are solidities and there are like quote unquote negative things that come up, I don't label them as negative. I just see them as part of the fun, part of the rising and passing away through the other positive ones that are codependent arising.
Cool. Thanks, Katie. This will be the last question. Albert, you're up.
All right. Hey, what's up, Frank? I've been following your shit for like,
shit,
for like 8 years, man. And like I was on like Minsk and all that shit, like pre-Ziz.
Shit, pre-Ziz. Dude, Ziz died like 10 years ago though, right?
Yeah, so I've been following, I've been on that shit for a while. So yeah, I mean, great to talk to you for like the first time ever. So yeah, I had a question. Okay.
Where are you from? Australia?
No, I'm from Jersey, but yeah.
Oh, Jersey. Cool. I was in Maryland when I was in the States. I was in Maryland, so pretty close.
Oh yeah, that's like 2 states away. Yeah, that's close enough. Yeah. All right, so I have a question, and now it relates to you and also relates to me.
Okay.
So I've been following your shit for a while. I know that you like banged like 100 chicks in like 1 year, like that kind of stuff, and like you were like super sex addicted and all that. And like I saw that like coming out like in your videos, like oh you got this crazy energy like that, right? And then like that was like fueling you, right? But then you said after you went through your enlightenment, you're no longer doing that, and you're like barely even. I don't even know if you're fapping at this point. I'm not gonna ask, but okay. But I have a question for that relates to me, and like, what are your thoughts overall? Because okay, like they say, like for example, that like the libido, right, is like it's just like a manifestation of like this creative drive, like the same energy that could create a child is the same energy that, you know, you use to create other things. And like, for example, like I'm just gonna give my personal story. Like I'm 36 years old, right? But I'm still a virgin.
Hey, you look like you're 25, bro.
Well, I'm Asian.
I thought you were in college, bro.
Bro, I'm Asian. What do you expect? So I know you know that deal. So you're like 60 years old, right? But so like
yeah, I'm 65.
Yeah, so it's like so I'm a virgin by choice. I've never been in a romantic relationship. I've never been on a date, and I've never even kissed anyone, right? But I'm good, man. Like I'm good to go. Like I don't need that stuff. And like people are like, Albert, how do you have all this energy? How do you do all this stuff? And I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's coming from here. And I was like, I'm doing like tantra lessons, right? And my tantra teacher saying like, yeah, like usually the men, like the chakras, like they're lower 3 chakras, they're strong, but you come from up here. So I got to work on my lower 3 chakras. So I'm thinking like, is my creative drive, is my energy, is that coming because like I'm sublimating this creative drive to you know, to create all this crazy stuff? And could it be also be like an archetype or something? I feel like this combination of features is not a coincidence. I feel like I'm like a shaman that's been coming here to like not have kids, but to like, I don't know, like go out and like bring all the tribes together and like, you know, cohere into one crazy group. So what I just want to know your thoughts on like sexuality and how that relates, nofap, celibacy, sex addiction, and all that stuff, how that relates to creativity, because I know that you're all into that.
Oh yeah, I was really into that. The way that I would explain it before was that there is some truth to sexual transmutation, because I mean you only have so much energy, right? Let alone, we don't even have to talk about archetypes. You only have so much energy. If you spend your energy on fabbing and watching porn only, you're not gonna have enough resources, both you know in the brain, the body, and time to do other creative stuff. But whether or not that transmutation is direct, this thing you're literally turning your semen into like the creative juice that's going to run into your brain and turn into brain cells, and then that would turn into like a piece of like wonderful painting. I have no idea. But at the same time, I think moderation, I like to take the middle way. I think moderation is the key. So I tried nofap for like a couple of months, I think, but it didn't really work out for me, because at the end I find myself even less productive because I was thinking about sex so much. My mind didn't have enough room to think about creativity. So I think for me, the most effective way was just to cut down my fabbing by just enough for me to still be productive. And I think just like how you said, like your lack of sexuality gave you the drive to create. For me, at least for my own personal experience, you know, my path leading up to now is my sexuality actually enhances and inspired my Mitsu to create, because my creativity, what I want to get out of my artwork before, and the content of my artwork, which they kind of feed back into each other, it's heavily sex infused. And it's almost like I was making art because I wanted to sort of not just use art as sort of like a vessel for my sexuality, but use art to get girls. So in a sense, my sexuality fused, it sort of like, you know, influenced and inspired me to be more creative, but not too much. Like I said, there was a time, that's why I started doing nofap, and that's why I started getting meditation in the first place, because I was thinking about sex and I was fapping so much, having sex so much, that I didn't have room in my mind, in my life, to do anything else. But once I found that balance, the middle way, it was nice.
Cool.
So it's both, I think we're kind of like two sides of the same extreme, I think, you know.
Yeah, we were meant to be yin and yang, right?
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much, Frank.
Yeah. I think by sexuality and the energy, I think if you walk down to it, the energy is the energy. If you don't label it as sexuality, or if you don't label it as chakras, if you don't label it as creativity, the energy is the energy, right? So like once you start labeling it, that could be good, or also could be detrimental to the experience. And I think a lot of even talking about meditation, I think a lot of my meditation insights and the drive to attain certain states, I would say some of it's sexual. Like it was like a lingering of my old condition of wanting to mentally calm, whether through sex or through creativity, through music, through art, and now through meditation. And during the mid path, when I was accessing a lot of like Jhanic states, I was like, this is the most direct way to like mentally calm, because you're coming out the universe, and the universe is fucking you, and you're fucking the universe at the same time, right? So a lot of that is also a little bit of sexuality in there too.
Awesome. So we're at the top of the hour now, so we're gonna close soon. But Frank, any kind of closing thoughts or anything that came alive for the last hour?
No, I mean, it was good. I really liked it. I wish
Very
it was
cool.
longer, though. I wish it was more questions. I'm enjoying it.
Well, we would love to have you back at the Stoa, perhaps a short series. And we're having these conversations. We call it dialogos, where because the Stoa is really well connected with all these intellectuals, especially in the Buddhistic scene. So maybe a conversation with you, Daniel Ingram, Shinzen Young. We can have like a four-way conversation, roundtable type thing. So if you're open, we'd love to have you back.
So you talked to Noam Chomsky as well, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
That was fun.
So would you say your channel or your platform is more intellectual based or more spirituality based, or like you try to do the fusion, or?
Yeah, it's exactly, yeah. It's a little bit of everything, and it's morphing into sort of an embodied approach, mind, heart, yeah, spirit.
Great.
Cool.
I like it. Love your
Yeah,
website.
thanks, man. Yeah, you like the simple
Mexico.
aesthetics. Yes.
My mind was balanced. That's why I talked to you.
Beautiful. Cool. So I'll circle back, maybe setting up something else in the new year. But Frank, thanks so much for coming to the Stoa today.
Thank you.
Love having you. And I'll just plug in an upcoming event on Monday. Tyson Yokoporta is coming back to the Stoa, the slow down, calm down, scale down, and step down, which is sort of like a little dig at Ken Wilber's cleanup growing up, whatever his 4-part was. So you can check out there and go to our website, our Substack, and Patreon for more information. So that being said, Frank, everyone, thanks for coming to Stoa today.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Peter. See you later.